I've been looking for this my whole life. Hello guys, my name is Doke and I always wanted to make perfect art. Graffiti or characters, it doesn't really matter. I want to make it all perfect. Perfect perspective, perfect light,
perfect shadows.
Everything perfect. It might seem a bit impossible, but there is this one tool that might get me a bit closer to my goal. Let me explain. So, I've been following this guy with the name Beeple. Beeple. It's Beeple, not Beeple. Who recently made a ton of money with a release of his art NFTs. But that's not important right now. Actually, it is important because it's one of the biggest events in the art industry in recent years, but the important thing is that Beeple, I hope that I'm pronouncing this correctly. No, you're not. He's producing these amazing art pieces on a daily basis. I was so impressed by his work and especially by the fact that by the frequency of his work. I didn't understand it, so I started to do a research on him. The good news are that he's a super hardworking man, so you don't need to feel like he has something what you don't, but there is a certain difference. When I saw his work for the first time, I thought that he draws/paints these pictures and I was like, how? This would take me like 2 weeks. But then eventually after some research I realized that this is not about drawing and painting all that much. This is about 3D software and 3D art. And so that's how I got into the 3D art world and discovered a whole new universe for me. It's mind-blowing what you can achieve in 3D. And so I decided to try it. My goal right now is to learn as much as I can about 3D and create a kick-ass 3D model of my graffiti piece, which would be totally awesome because you are able to change the texture, you are able to change the light conditions, you are able to
see the 3D, the perspective, the shadows, the highlights, everything.
And that is extremely useful in 2D art as well. But there is this one problem that I have never ever tried to create something in 3D before, except a house in Sims 4. So I'm a bit afraid that my expectations might be a little bit overhyped. Yeah, but well, there is only one way to find out if that's true, by jumping straight into it. The software that I will be learning/using is called Blender, and it is completely free, so you can download it and try it too. So far I spent about 5 minutes inside of it, so let's watch some tutorials. I discovered this guy with the name Blender Guru. He has really good detailed tutorials on Blender, and it seems that thanks to him I might be able to reach my high expectations. So let's watch. And so, say hello to my first 3D model that I created. It is a very simple model, but you can already see the possibilities, such as the fact that I can just grab this light and change the lighting conditions right away and see the shadow, the reflections. I love it, but I still have a ton of stuff to learn, so let's continue. This is starting to look like the math models that I used to do at university. Alright, so for the past few days I've been watching a lot of tutorials, Blender tutorials. To be precise, I watched about 10 to 15, 20 minutes videos, and I've been also doing some tryouts in the app itself. And I actually got to a point where the tutorials started to feel a little bit too advanced. They were dealing with stuff that I probably won't need. And so right now comes time for my first 3D artwork that I will actually render out, and it will be like a solid art piece. Maybe. Just as I say that this first artwork should be really simple, I want to make sure that I understand the principles, and I basically just want to find out what I'm capable of. And after this first simple artwork, I would like to do a second one, more detailed, more complex piece. But for the moment, let's pay attention to this one. Okay, so after some major problems in the beginning, I created my first simple 3D model of my graffiti piece, and I already applied one of the most common effects in graffiti, a shadow that you see behind the piece. And the great thing is that I can just play with it. I can take this lamp, I can change the position of the light source, I can change the color of the light source, whatever I want, basically. And when I use a more advanced render system, with this engine, the artwork gets a pretty realistic look, and I gotta say that I just love it, the possibilities. And that's also the reason why this is just the beginning. Let's make this bad boy a bit more interesting. Let me just say that learning a new software is one of the most annoying and nerve-wracking things that you can do in your life. But anyways, I finished my first solid render in Blender! Blender, yeah! And it's been difficult because things never work as you expect, and here it is! I hope you like my first simple render in Blender. And right now, if you excuse me, I need to go running, because otherwise I will just take this PC and smack it out of the window. But when I come back, we will proceed to the complex, more difficult project. 3D project.
1 hour later.
Alright, time for the second render. So I created the basic sketch in Adobe Fresco, and then I imported it into Blender. And the sketch will serve me as a reference picture, just as before, except that this sketch is a lot more complex, more shapes, more curves. So I suspect that the modeling of this one will be a nightmare. best feeling ever to find out after like 2 hours of work that something's fucked up. And even better is when you don't know what or how to solve it. When I started to dig deeper into 3D art, one of the first questions that I had was how much time? How long does it take to create something in 3D? First of all, because of people's everydays, I thought that it's fairly fast. But then I started to model this more complex sketch, and man, this process is so frustrating. I mean, the main reason behind this is that I'm doing this for the first time and I'm still learning. I gotta watch some tutorial every 10 minutes because I don't know how things work, or I'm trying to fix some error, some bug that I created, and that takes time. Frankly, I've already put a lot more time into this video than I usually put into an I Tried episode, for example. But eventually, when you realize how things work and you find the right ways to do them, for example, I tried to create this D as a single object, as a single model, but then I realized that it will be a lot more easier if I do every single stroke separately, because it makes my life a lot more easier. Yeah, at this point, I'm finally starting to feel like I got this. Okay guys, so look at this. The 3D model of my graffiti piece. It's still pretty blank, but you can see all these nice light effects. You can see the shapes, you can see the 3D. And this is just perfect because you can see how the 3D should look like. You can see how the shadows should look like depending on the position of the sun. Just look at this shadow and highlight on the top and shadow down here. And when I change the position of the light, it changes immediately, and that's just lovely. But anyways, this is not the end. We have the model, but as I said, it's still pretty blank, so let's continue. It's been a week since I started to play with 3D art, and while my final render is being rendered, let's do a little sum up. If I remember correctly, in the beginning I said something like, this is a way how to achieve unbelievable art results fast. Is that true? Well, yes. Yes it is. But you need to know what you are doing. If that's the case, the possibilities are never ending, like you can do whatever, which is also overwhelming but great at the same time. Am I going to produce more 3D art? No. But am I going to use 3D art to produce better 2D art? Definitely. And I highly recommend you to do the same, because playing with a software like this, I mean, in the last week I've learned so much about light, about color of light, about how shadows work, where are the highlights, what happens if you do this and that. It's really awesome. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video and you liked my creations, my 3D creations, thumb up would be awesome, as always. And speaking of creations, here is the final one. Actually, two final ones, because I created the first one, then I was like, I don't like it, and so I created another one. So, two final results. Advantages of 3D art. This is it. som minútu rozmýšľal o tom, či poviem this is us. I discovered this guy, jak sa volá? Blender Guru.